Good day, folks. So in this week's WDD Live, Kevin Geary is rebuilding the Bi-Rite market front page in bricks using ACSS and frames. And it's pretty awesome what he does here. It's really, he takes 30 minutes. So basically a speed build challenge, as we know that from Jamie Marsland, and he rebuilds the whole page from top to bottom, including like all the way to the footer, really. And so it's a highly recommended watch. I have a link to the video in the description. But what he also points out is that what you're seeing right here, this Bi-Rite market Polk Street is open intro, this header, is actually not text, it's just an image, right? They're just using an image for this, which causes all kinds of problems, including that, you know, it's not machine readable, it's not screen readable, and if you scale it like for different screen sizes, it gets cut off because they even implemented it as a background image. So definitely not an ideal situation. But of course, within 30 minutes, he also didn't have time to just rebuild this thing in HTML and CSS. So the minute I saw this, I was like, I'm itching to do that. And this is what we're here for today. I'm going to rebuild that image in HTML and CSS using Bricks Builder, and we're going to see how this can be done. So let's dive right into it. Enjoy. All right, folks. So this is the original website, and you can see if I highlight text, I can highlight the section before and after this header, but the header itself is just an image that is put in as a backdrop for a div. And here's what we're going to build. So it looks very close to the original, and you can see that this is actual text. And if we bring up the dev tools and we look at how it scales, it is mobile responsive, right? So we can see that here, this text both shrinks and breaks before it could be hit by these two open borders, right? There's always a distance between them, and it never touches the word open. And we can also see that the height of this whole header is limited until it starts shrinking, and then here it stops shrinking again. So, you know, now it's locked in, and starting from here, it starts shrinking, and now it's locked in again. So all of this is pretty nicely responsive for, you know, large devices all the way up to or down to small devices. Isn't that something? Let's see how to build that, shouldn't we? Shan't we? Shall we? Okay, so we're going to build a structure first. We're going to need a section, so I'm going to press S. But quite unusually, we don't need a container in here. And we need a block. Oh, great. So Advanced Thema has this bug. If you press B to enter a block, then it puts two blocks in there, and then this doesn't show them in the structure panel. So Maxime, if you're watching, that's a bug. It would be awesome if you could look into it. Okay, so we now have two blocks in here. I don't want two blocks in there. Now the funny thing is, if I delete one of them, they both leave. So yeah. Out the door they go. So I press B for a block, and then inside here we need another block, and inside that we need two basic text elements. Why? Why, Matt? Why? Okay, you'll see. So there's a span here, there's a span here. We need two spans. This one is going to be an H1. This is our heading. And we have another block here, which is that the diff is correct, this is correct. Then we need here Bi-Rite market Polk Street is space. Open. All right, so much for that. Where do we start? Should I start with the word open? Should I style that first? Let's see. Oh, actually, you know what? I'm just gonna name my elements. Store sign. The next one is gonna be called panel. Then we have a heading. We have normal, and we have styled. And we're going to start at the top. So the store sign gets layout settings, space L for this, because we want to have a little bit of an inset. So L, wonderful. And then we go to typography and we make sure this text becomes white so nobody can read it. Then we go to background and we make this blue so people can read the text again. And then I think that's all. Let me just double check if I missed something here. So I think up until now, it's probably pretty self-explanatory what's happening here. But if you have questions, just post them in the comments. Comment, like, and subscribe. You know the usual dance. It's what I need to survive. Okay, so normally this would expand, right? Now it expands. Now it disexpands. Now it doesn't expand. Now, see, this is fucking random. Maxime, if you're reading, if you're watching this, or Bricks team, I don't know, but this has been around for this bug has been around for like a year. It feels like a year. Like it feels like it's been around forever. Like this is it just randomly expands and collapses, and there's not always a way to tell what happens. Okay, so we are going to give this store sign the outer border. We're going to put that on the section. Okay, how are we going to do that? First of all, I'm going to bring over all the variables I wrote for this project. Here they are, and you can take a quick look at them, but I'm going to describe or explain each of these variables to you as soon as it becomes relevant. So like, I'm not going to go through all of them now, but once while we build this, I will talk to you about what they are. And then we have, going to go root, squigglies, and we have outline, var, sign, border, semicolon, and we have outline offset, calc, var space m times -1. Okay, so now I have produced an outline. Why am I not seeing the outline? I'll show you. If I make this black, you'll see that the outline is actually a CSS property that is being used by Bricks to give the element that you're working on its outline. So if I go here, then the outline becomes visible. But if I just select the element, then Bricks uses the outline CSS property. So we're not able to use it, right? So Control P, we can see that the outline is there. Okay. So we're going to make this blue again. Little boy blue. Dabba-dee-dabba-die. Okay. I believe that's it. So we have our outline. And why did this work? Because the var sign border is 2 pixels solid and then white. So our outline is just 2 pixels solid white. And we can use the same value for borders later as well when we need it. And we will. Spoiler alert, we will. Believe that. So we move on to the panel. The panel. Bada bing, bada boom. We're going to give the panel a little bit of padding because I want to have more inset here. Can never be enough inset in your life. 0.5 rem is enough. And we're going to give it, let me see what else. Oh yeah, we need to do the whole aspect ratio, min height, max height dance, and we need to put position relative on this. Okay, so position relative, and then the aspect ratio is 10/5. Obviously, I could also just put 2:1. I think my math doesn't desert me. 10/5. Okay, so that's the outline. That's the aspect ratio of this panel, right? So this inside div, the block here. So what's going to happen now is if I scale, right? Now, obviously, if I scale larger than my screen allows, then it zooms out. So never mind that. But you can see that the aspect ratio is always protected. But what we don't want to happen is that the content gets cut off, and also on larger screens we don't want this. We don't want to have these like endless amounts of spacing above and below the word open once it's ready, right? Like you can see here. Let me just Let me go back to playing accordion here, right? You can see that if this, now it scales, right? The aspect ratio is being preserved, but up until this point here, then it stops scaling, and then the word open gets larger up until we hit 1680 pixels, and then it stops growing as well, right? So at some point we want to stop this whole thing from growing. And that's why we need a min height and a max height. The min height is what happens here, right? After, I think 200, yeah, whatever. Yeah, whenever it reaches its min height, then it stops shrinking in terms of height. And then whenever it reaches its max height, it's gonna stop growing. And that's what we're gonna do next. Let me see what just came in here. Sure. So the max height I figured out is 60 rem. And the min height was 25 rem. I spent about 2.5 hours this morning working on this whole thing. And most of that time, or a large chunk of that time, was spent making clamp functions and, fiddling around, figuring out what the right proportions are and what the right sizes are, like how many rem, how many percent, how many VH. No, there weren't no VH, but you get the drill. So that took a while, but now everything plays together very nicely. Yes. Go back up. Back up we go, and I think I put the CSS here. Oh yeah, we need to put some CSS on this panel, don't we? Yes, we do. So all the CSS I'm about to write is to make this open border, right? Open border is a very important concept in the modern world. We want to let all the people from other countries in because they need our help and we're good people. Root. That's why we need open borders. That was my political statement for today. Half of my audience just left. It's like, fuck you, Matt. Border, var, sign border. So good old dependable sign border. That is the variable that we discussed earlier, 2 pixels solid white. And it's right there. But we see that the border now at the top is closed. We don't want that. So border top, nothing. Okay. I mean, I could have also used the shorthand here and be like 0 var sign border, var sign border, var sign border. Could have done that. Or I could have just gone border bottom, left, right values. One. Okay. Yeah, but this is what I did. Root before. So we got a root before. And this is where the magic comes in. Root rot. After. No semicolon. Squigglies. Squiggly weely. And we go content. Nothing. Right. We go width. Var head open border. Semicolon. We go border top. Var sign border. So same variable again, right? The border is var sign border up here in the root, and the before and after are getting a border top of var sign border, so the same border there. And the width is head open border that we're going to discuss in a moment. We need position absolute on this, because you can see there's a before and after already. They're appearing. That's very nice. I like that they showed up to say hello. Better late than never, boys. Top 0. We want them both at the top, and we want them both left 0. Actually, we don't want that because now both of them are, overlaying each other. So that's not cool. Why are they doing that? Because I just told them to. It's my own fault. Root after. And again, I mean, there's different ways of doing this, what I'm doing now. And like I'm introducing some redundancy in the code, but I don't, it's fine. It's fine with me. I can accept that. So left auto and right 0. And now all of a sudden this thing moved to the right. So this is how we created our left and right open borders, right? This is a before and this is an after. They share most of their properties. But yeah, one of them is left and one of them is right. Okay. Stop using the word so much, Matt. This is my Toastmasters me reminding me to not say so much. Toastmasters is awesome. If you live in an English-speaking country, I think like most countries actually have Toastmasters, but I think it's most Toastmasters are in North America, and it's a really cool thing. You get to meet nice people, and you get to learn public speaking, and then you get to unlearn it while you don't do any YouTube videos for a while. We go see again. Heading. We go to the heading. The heading doesn't really need much. It just needs, it's a flex already. So I want to align the content to the center. Magic. But I also want the text to be centered, because right now the content is centered, but once it starts breaking, this is happening, and that's not what we want. Okay, so get your priorities straight. Get it in your head. You're supposed to break along the middle like this. Good job, boys and girls. Good job. And we move on to normal. So this is the normal heading text, and we want to do a little bit of stuff to it. We go to style. Oh, I'm already there. Look at that. Layout. Yeah, did I explain the variable? No, I didn't end up explaining the variable to you, right? So we go back to the panel. This variable here, the head open border variable, is just set to 23%. So the width of this thing here is 23%, right? And on both sides, okay. And that's all it is. We're going to see in a moment why it's useful to do this as a variable. We're going to have another variable here. It's called head protect. It's like wearing a helmet, except not. Max width. Yeah, the max width is going to be head protect. So now we can see, actually, let me put the background black again. Why don't we leave it black until we're done with this, so we can see outlines of our elements. You can see that the width of this is now, the max width of this is now, less wide, more narrower than the space that's between these two guys, right? So the space that's between these two guys is 100% minus 23 minus 23, right? I mean, that far I think we can agree. So we got 54% open space here that this can use. But we never wanted to touch the edges of the open borders, right? So I decided I wanted to have another 2% here in between, always, okay? So that's how this variable that we're looking at now came about, head protect. If we go back to the parent and we look at CSS, head protect is a calc that goes 96% minus 23 minus 23, right? Minus this 23 and minus this 23, and why 96? Because that gives us 2% here and 2% here. 100 minus 2 minus 2 is 96. So that's how I did that. Back to normal. Don't we all wish we could go back to normal in today's world? We just did. Don't say I never did anything for you. Okay, so we're on the normal thingamabob. I think on layout there's nothing else to do, but we need to give it a little bit of typography here. In typography, we want to give it font size, var heading, and we want to give it a line height of 1em. So first, why var heading? Because if you look at the finished product, you can see that the text here, up here, not just, it's not just width protected, but it also shrinks, right? You see that it becomes smaller. Like the letters get smaller as we get to smaller device sizes, right? That way, what you're seeing here, this breaking into multiple lines and colliding with the word open, that would happen much sooner if we didn't shrink the text, And that's why I made this variable, and the variable is just a clamp function. So I go back to the store sign, to the parent, look at the variables, head protect, no, heading clamp. So it goes from 1.5 rem at the minimum is 290, all the way to 4.5 rem at the maximum, which is 1680 pixels. I still have Kevin's responsive clamp calculator open, and you can see here that these are the values that I put in there, right, to get this. Okay, so clap, clap, happy, happy. But one thing that's happening now is kind of annoying is if I go down here, if I go down, don't we all like going down? It's there's a little bit of too much distance here between those lines. So to correct that, we just go in here and we go line height 1em there. And now if we shrink, see the line height stays consistently 1em, and there's no large gap between these lines. So that's pretty much it. That's what we needed to do for the head. Oh, by the way, I didn't talk about what I did in automatic CSS. Actually, not that much. All I needed to do was go to typography, and font family is Josephine Sans, which is the closest I could find to this, right? I think, as Kevin said in the WDD, they're using some sort of proprietary font, but Josephine Sans comes fairly close to this, right? But then for this word open, I obviously found another font, which is more bulky, and because Josephine Sans, even at the most bold, at the boldest weight, just didn't look very. I don't know. I thought it could look nicer, so I wanted to something different, and we're going to get to that. But so Josephine Sans for everything. And then for the H1, I just told it to be uppercase, and that's that. And then the only other thing I set up were the colors, color palette. I took the primary color from the original website, which, you know, this I decided was the primary color, and this I decided was going to be the secondary. And then during our build, we really only use a secondary, but better to have and not need. So that's pretty much that. Open. We need to go to style, and there's a bunch of stuff evidently that we need to do here, and this took me quite a while, to be quite honest. So first of all, I wanted to have this always vertically centered in, or you know what, let me take a step back here. I think I don't need to explain this, but I wanted to point it out. So all of this is the same heading, right? So for machines, if there's like a bot comes by, or if there's a screen reader, it's going to read an H1, right? All of the Bi-Rite market Polk Street is open is going to be read as your H1 heading, right? But we have two spans in here, and we don't really do much with this span, but we do a bunch of stuff with this span to make this word open just look, you know, to achieve this layout. Okay, so that's why I built this the way I did, and that's why now we're gonna be able to work on the word open. First of all, we want to position this absolutely. Go back up here, position absolute. Then we go top 50%. Now it's 50% from the top, but you know, this line, the top line is now 50% from the top. So it's not vertically centered because it's below the vertical center. So that's a problem. And then we go left 50%. And now it's off to the right, right? It drifts to the right, and that's not cool. Shouldn't be doing that. So we go to transform, translate x minus 50%, bada bing. Now it's being moved to the left 50% of the width of itself, right? And that's how we minus 50%, how we perfectly center it within its parent, and the parent, or within the next parent that has an relative on it. And did we make this relative? Yeah, we made this relative, right? So now this is centered within the panel. That was trick number one, and I think there's nothing else we need to do on the layout tab. No, we don't. Okay, we can move on to typography. And for here, we want to make the text transparent. Why do we want to do that? We'll see in a moment. I'm not going to do it yet. I'm going to give it the font size var styled. A bit disturbed by where it's displayed right now, but this is probably going to work itself out in a moment. So var styled is another clamp function. Here. Styled clamp. So it goes from 7 rem, this is 7 rem, all the way down to, no, wait, 7 rem is, no, 50 rem is the maximum, and it goes all the way down to 7 rem. So this is how we make it shrink. Again, clamp function. You know, if you've seen PB 101, you know what I'm talking about. Now, I wanted a different font here, right? So the font that we're going to use, that I found on Google Fonts, that I think works quite nicely for this, is called Legend. And this is it. Ah, yeah, and now it's properly centered. So I think Josephine Sands has a problem with centering. Could that be? Is it off? Is it vertically off? I mean, I guess it looked like it. Who cares? I don't care. Line height. Oh yeah, why do we need to do the line height? We'll see in a moment, okay? Why do we need to do the color? Why do we need to do the line height? You are about to find out, boys and girls and other genders. Background color. No background color, but we have this little really nice picture here that we're going to use as a background for this text. And I think probably because it's positioned absolutely. I don't remember why. No, I mean, for some reason, it's just like this, right? And that's clear. That's definitely not what we want. So first, what we want to do is we want to give it a background clip. I can put this here to full size. We want to give it a background clip of text. Oops, that makes it worse. Now it's gone. How do we get this effect? Well, let's find out. First, you can already see that, you know, that the line height here is just not high enough. So 0. I mean, you could do 1 EM, right? Then it's a little bit higher. I actually went ahead and 0.85 it. So it's a bit closer to the actual thing. And so that was number one. And the second thing is we need to make the text transparent, because that way the background shines through. There we go. Now we've got this beautiful design here. Okay. And now, oh yeah, now it becomes really interesting. So this one took me a while. Okay, let's see. Here. I tried to figure out how we're going to get an outline around these letters, right? And I remembered that normally you do it with text shadow. But if you try to do it with text shadow, which would be this here, right? Let me show you this. Text shadow. So you would have 15 pixels minus 15 pixels. So X and Y, those are XY values, right? So you have 4 shadows. You have one that goes 15 pixels to the right and minus 15 pixels to the top. Then you have another one that goes in this direction, another one, so all 4 directions. And then you would end up with a shadow that with 4 shadows that kind of overlap each other and go around and on the inner side of the letters as well, right? But if we do this, it's not going to work because the color of the text is transparent. So the shadow is actually being rendered as the full letter. And I'm going to show you what happens if I put in the text shadow. Root is already there. This happens, right? Because the text is transparent. If I didn't make it transparent, let's see, layout, typography, color, give it some color, right? There, then this would work, but it doesn't. So text shadow is out of the question. I mean, it's not exactly out of the question because you could do a before, and then in the before you could put content open, like the same word, and then you could put the text shadows there, and you could z-index it as -1, and then it would work. I actually tinkered around with that a little, and it didn't work out of the box. And then I looked for different solutions. So there is a nice solution, as we can see here, but it's not text shadow. Now let's go back to transparent. transparent. Okay. Yeah, it is transparent. So that didn't work. So the next thing I tried was text stroke, 15 pixels wide. So text stroke does what it says on the tin. It puts it strokes the text, and that's all good and nice, except it also strokes the lines that apparently the designer actually drew when they were designing the letters. So you get this kind of stuff and you get this kind of stuff. So text stroke doesn't really work here either. It's a WebKit prefix, but if you go to Can I Use text stroke, you can see that it's really widely supported these days. So it is certainly an option, in some cases, but not in this case, because we're working with transparent text and a background picture. So the solution actually was a filter. And the filter is drop shadow. And again, just like with the text shadow, you do a drop shadow in all 4 directions. 10 pixels, 0 pixels, minus 10, 0, 0, 10, and 0, minus 10. And then the blur is 0 pixels and white every time. So if we put this in here, then we get the shadow, okay? Now the problem is if we do it that way, it's still not what we need, right? Because if I now, let's close this. If I now scale it down, you can see that it's always 15 pixels. And look at how big this is getting. Like this doesn't look good. This looks fine, but this certainly doesn't look good. But so what do we need? Yes, you guessed it, we need clamp functions. So we want this shadow to shrink alongside the everything else once the device size decreases, right? So the clamp function is here. Where is there, text shadow clamp. So it goes from 0.3, so 30 pixels, 3 pixels? Yeah, I think it's 3 pixels at the lowest, all the way up to 10 pixels. Yeah, I ended up making it 10. 15 was a little bit too bulky for me, even at full size. So we go to styled, and then what we need is this CSS here. CSS, there. Now Control P. And look how nice this is. Isn't that wonderful? Yes, it is. Yes, it certainly is, Matt. Thank you, other Matt. Okay. And that's it, guys. That's the whole magic here. Let's go back to the background, right click, secondary color, and we are done. So the last thing you might want to do is if you want to build similar backgrounds again, then you can BEM this whole thing. So you could go to AT's class converter, and it's already pretty much like all of them. It already knows, oh, hey, Maxime. These buttons, they just drift out of the thing, which is uncool. But it automatically, takes the labels that you gave the elements, and then what all of them doesn't have is you can copy the ID styles to the classes. Yes, you want to do that, and you want to erase the ID styles, you go create classes, and all the classes have been created. And now, you can see here that with the blue border on the left side, you can see that everything is now styled on class, whereas before it was all styled at ID level, which you can see here, right? If it's started at ID level, it gets this red border on the right side, and if it's started class level, it's got a blue border on the left side. All right, guys, that's it. So how would you have done this? I'm very curious. Please leave your comments below. And whatever great ideas come up that I didn't have in this video, I'll be sure to put them in the description. So if you're watching this in the future, check in there to see what other opportunities and options are mentioned. Talk to you soon. Have a great day. Bye.